up on the show, we bring you a fresh face of the Vancouver wine scene. With her extensive writing, teaching, and education background, she has come a long way in a very short period of time. She's a sommelier at Schaumbar and makes up for 1/3 of the new wine team. She also contributes to many hospitality organizations and publications like Vita Magazine, Top Drop, the BC Hospitality Foundation, and Aprons for Gloves. Not to mention a freelance writer for all things food, wine, and culture in Vancouver. She's an ex-teacher, an ex-yachty, an ex-maritimer, that's Atlantic Canada. Ladies and gentlemen, self-proclaimed ukulele champion and wine whisperer, Laura Starr. Welcome back, vlog. Today we're in Gastown at a beautiful penthouse apartment out with the lovely, this girl right here, Laura Starr. Laura, thanks for having us.
Thanks for having me be here.
No problem. We'll get right into it, I guess. When did you first spark an interest in wine?
I mean, aside from drinking it, I've worked in restaurants for a very long time and was sort of doing a little bit of humming and hawing over where to go with my career a couple years ago, and having been a server for so long, with a couple other things in my back pocket, I kind of was inspired by our sommelier at the time, Jason Yamasaki, and sort of built up some confidence to go ask him if there was any hypothetical opportunity for me to kind of jump in. Mm-hmm. And honestly, it was the moment I put it out into the universe, things just unraveled for me. It was quite beautiful to watch. He pulled me in, started teaching me. I got in as an assistant sommelier there quite quickly, started doing some of my wine training right away. And within a few weeks of even doing that, some other things kind of rolled out as well with the writing gigs for wine. And then it just kind of, I was in the right place at the right time, with the right kind of things in my back pocket, with the right intentions. It all just kind of
planets
happened.
Aligned, and here we go. Here we are,
So.
talking about you. Well, you kind of answered my second question, your journey. Can you at Schaumbar, you guys, the three of you put together a unique team. Can you explain that whole process?
Yeah, I mean, when I first joined on anyways, there was a lot of different changeover. In a good sense, Jason had moved on to some bigger and better things for himself. He'd been there for, I think, 6 or 7 years at that point. And after trying to figure out where to go, we didn't know if they were going to be hiring somebody above us, below, like how it was all going to roll out. And we just sort of approached them. It was Kayla and I at the time, I believe, fairly new into wine in that sense. And we just said, give us a chance, we'll run with it. So instead of sort of having that hierarchy, having a director and all of those kind of things below it, we just sort of pooled in all of our collective resources and made this sort of equal team that's kind of ebbed and flowed over the last couple of years, but worked out to kind of get, worked out for the timing anyways, and allowed everybody to learn a lot, step up into bigger roles that we might not have had the same opportunity to jump into otherwise, and really kind of put our strengths to the test, work as a team. Kind of my ideal environment anyways, so.
What was your role in that team?
So we all worked wine on the floor, and we all kind of contributed to the way that the program runs. So I think Kayla was running the purchasing at the time, and I sort of rolled out things like the menu, anything media related, and then I handled staff training, which is nice because I have a teaching background. And I was able to roll out kind of just a bunch of different ways to engage the staff. It's really important, especially with such a large restaurant, to make sure, and so many of the staff are young and new, to make sure that they are comfortable talking about wine. It can be quite intimidating, as I'm sure everyone is familiar with. And you want them to be able to pass it along to the guests, but not even just for that. You want them to enjoy it, right? It can't be a rehearsed, scripted, this is our Cabernet. You want them to be comfortable. You want them to be able to approach us, and you want to give them opportunities to learn.
Make a connection.
Yeah, absolutely, right? Exactly. So that was really exciting for me. It kind of pulled all of my past resources and experiences in education into this thing that I could really contribute, even though I was still quite new to wine. So,
for those of us that don't know, including myself, how long does it take to become a sommelier?
I don't know if timing, it's not necessarily, I mean, it can be the same way that you would just go to school, but really there's different courses you can take. I mean, the word sommelier can hold different things. I mean, essentially, a sommelier is somebody who works within a wine program at a restaurant. That title, though, can mean different things. You can be a sommelier and be the purchaser. You could be a sommelier and just be working floor shifts. You can, there's a whole bunch of different kind of titles. Different restaurants have different ways of kind of setting it up. Traditionally, you'll have a wine director with some sommeliers and assistant sommeliers below him or her, who are, they'll have different responsibilities, and then you kind of learn your way up. Mm-hmm. But essentially, it's the person on the floor engaging with the guests and allowing, you're helping the guests hedge their bets on which wine on the list that they're going to enjoy, right? Mm-hmm. So, yeah. I don't even know if I answered that question.
What kind of tests do you take? Like how many levels are there? How many levels are there?
So I did the WSET 1, which is really introductory level. You can do it over a weekend. And for anybody who doesn't know anything about wine, if you want to know the difference between red and white, great place to start. Gives you the language, mm-hmm. the understanding of what you're getting into. Wine, I thought it was going to be not necessarily easier to learn about, but I didn't know what I was getting into until you poke your head into this world, and all of a sudden it's like a universe that doesn't ever stop expanding of information and new ways of making wines and different grape varietals and different production methods, and everywhere around the world finding all these new places you can grow it. And it's not just about knowing Chardonnay. There is a million more things behind the making of Chardonnay and where you make it and the terroir and the land and the sunshine and the maker and all of these different things. There's different clones of Chardonnay. There's everything can contribute to the wine tasting differently. So, and then you realize that Chardonnay is just one of a lot of different varietals and mm-hmm. a lot of different ways of making it. And it just,
always
you realize there's never an end. It's just an ongoing evolution of wine, and you just have to be a part of the growth of it. It's really neat. So you can start with that. There's a bunch of different places around the city you can take it. You can move up into your WSET 2, your WSET 3, which gradually become more and more, obviously, detail-oriented into the different specifics behind wine. It can move up into a 2-year wine diploma program, which is quite intensive. And then very few people from there are courageous enough to pursue the Master of Wine type thing, which is that really lifelong journey of knowing everything about wine in the whole world, pretty much.
Which is a lot.
Which is intense, yeah. And, a lot of people are into that sort of thing. Other people, it's a bit too intense. And then there's other places that teach in different ways. There's other courses that are a bit more focused on service steps. For anybody wanting to get started out, I just say, if you're in a restaurant, find a restaurant where their wine program is engaging, where you've got mm-hmm. people that you can talk to. Shambar is really unique for that because we really engage with the staff, and there's a couple other restaurants around the city that also do the same thing. But yeah, if you have the opportunity to work with people in a restaurant and learn from them, suck up as much as you can. Take that, know that you would have to pay for that otherwise, and so latch on to those wine professionals and just get as much out of it as you can. Just pay attention. So
that's probably one of the perks of the job, is the tasting part.
Yes, it's not. Okay, so Shambar is one of, I think, only 3 restaurants around the city where we taste the wine before the bottle goes out. But it's not meant to be tasting in the sense of I'm having some of your wine, this is so lovely and enjoyable, I'll go sip it in the back room.
But while you're learning, though, you have to taste so many different types of wines. You got to train your palate, basically.
Yes, absolutely, right?
There's wine tastings. Actually, I ran into you one time a couple of years ago at a wine tasting, and I guess, like I said, it's a perk, right?
Yes. Oh my God. Yeah. It is. There's so many different places and times and ways of tasting wine. If you take the wine courses, you'll get a chance to actually taste through. I work in a restaurant where we actually do get to be a little bit more involved with knowing the wines on an intimate level, checking them for faults, temperature, all the different ways they're supposed to present before they go out to the guest to make sure that it's just sent out in the perfect manner. Through media, because I write, I get wine samples, and so I get to taste a lot of new wines that are coming out, new releases, particularly in BC, which I love getting to know our backyards so nicely, so intimately. And then just, there's a lot of, if you're involved with CAPS, which is a professional wine association, the Canadian Association of Professional Sommeliers. You can get invited to different master classes, different tasting events, different things around the city, and you get to go and taste. Sometimes you get to meet winemakers. Sometimes you just get to taste through new portfolios and releases, and it's constant. It's intense, and it is overwhelming at first, but you realize the more that you start learning about wine, you can recall wines like crazy. I remember my first year doing wine, and the things I would taste were so hard to hold on to. You'd have to write it all down because you'd forget it and you couldn't remember the name of the wine or how it was made. And all of a sudden you start learning how to really, it just kind of like settles in with you a bit more. And now you can kind of, somebody will mention a wine that we tasted last year and I'll be like, oh, I remember that. It was like this, this, and this. And you're, all of a sudden you realize it's becoming your language.
It blows my mind how some people can taste a blind tasting a wine and know exactly where it's from, the soil, blah, blah, blah. The year, how does that even, how do you do that?
It seems really foreign to people because wine isn't something you've learned to taste like that before. But I always use a music analogy because I find people relate to it better. So if you're new to music and you're listening to a song, it just sounds like a song. But if you've learned music, if you've learned the language of music, you can listen to that song and you can pick out the beat. You can pick out all of these different elements of the song. You can specifically hear the piano. You can specifically, notice different instruments, different kind of production methods. You can pick up on background music. There's all of these things you learn to hear, all the nuances, through your training, right? And so with music, to be able to break that down, you don't do that on your first day. You learn that through time and just listening and practice. And it's the same with wine. The first time you taste it, it tastes like wine. And a lot of them, you don't really even know how to describe why they're different. I can give you 2 white wines and you know they're different. But to say why, it's sort of like, oh, well, this one might be, and you learn the language. There's lots of tools out there for practicing, and it's just about going back to it and kind of fine-tuning your palate. So.
You mentioned a gentleman earlier. Is he your mentor? What kind of advice has he given you?
Jason?
Yes.
Jason Yamasaki. Definitely a mentor. My favorite part about Jason was the fact that he was so excited about bringing me into the wine program not because of my background in wine. We just sort of connected on a level, and he thought I had things to bring to the table, to the wine industry, to the wine program at Chambard, that were relevant in ways that wasn't just because I had the WSET in my back pocket. Like I was able to back in, kind of catch up on that schooling really quick, but I was professional at my job. I had a background in teaching. I had great rapport with the staff. I can communicate. If I were to reflect on my last couple of years doing this, I'd say my biggest skill is the fact that whether you are like a wine snob, whether you have a lot of money to spend, whether you're just a couple out for your first dinner since you had 3 babies over the last 8 years, and you don't know anything about wine, but this is a special night, and you don't even know how to tell me what it is that you like, I can figure it out. I can read people and engage and build relationships, and I can hear what you want, even if you don't know how to tell me. And so I can make things really special. It doesn't need to be about an expensive bottle going out. It can be just like a really cheap and cheerful, really fun, approachable wine, and I can take you through that, and I can tell you the background of it, and I can have fun with it, and I can make it really approachable. I make sure there's no scariness in wine for people, and that's really, really important to me.
Is that hence the wine whisperer?
Yeah.
Yeah? You can read people, you can get a sense.
Yeah.
A sense.
But Jason gave me the confidence to be like that. He didn't kind of take my really sort of off-the-cuff personality and try and box it in. He was just kind of like, roll with this. Or that's how he made me feel. Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe he's sitting there being like, she should have done it like this. But I always felt really confident around him, regardless of not necessarily having the right wine knowledge in my back pocket at the time.
You're lucky to combine 2 of your passions now, wine and writing.
Yes.
When did you know that you wanted to be a writer?
Writing has always been a big part of my life to some degree or another. I was an English teacher. I took a lot of poetry classes in university. I studied French linguistics. And it's just always been something, that I've had sort of a natural knack for. And I have a playful, whimsical language at the best of times. And when I first started in wine, a very dear friend of mine, Kelsey Klassen, had just taken over editor-in-chief position with Vita magazine, and had wanted a wine writer, but really liked the idea of having a new person in wine to start a wine column that was approachable to people. And it kind of, people follow the journey into the world of wine and the kind of stumbling blocks, and just the language is less intimidating when it comes from somebody who's sort of starting at the same level and kind of building it up. And every time I would find something new and interesting, that would be the next topic that I would write about. And
how did you land that role? How did you land that role?
Kelsey just approached me. She said, listen, she had just gotten that. It was actually the Van Meg Awards a couple years ago, and we met there. I I had just gone for Shambar, and she was going there because she's in media, and told me about this amazing position. And I had told her about getting into wine, and we were celebrating the fact that the two of us as women were in these industries, that there are a lot of other men. And just, we were celebrating our successes and kind of getting into things that we were passionate about. And, old friends, and the way that we pursued things that meant something to us, and it all started to sort of work out. And she goes, listen, I'm in this role, I want a wine writer, and I want it to be you. And she's been a key player in every way my life has rolled out in Vancouver. And it's been very nice to have a woman who has, in every opportunity that she can, she'll empower other women to be their fullest success, and it's remarkable.
You mentioned the journey. I find people these days want to see the journey. They want to see the story behind everything, right? So has social media helped you at all? How has it changed the game, if it has?
I mean, social media has changed the game, I think, just for the entire world. There's a lot of, social media in general has made things very quick fix. So there's a bit of a downfall to it in that sense. But I think in the world of wine, it's made things very easily accessible, and information has become very easy to share. So without it, it would have been difficult to make, you don't necessarily just text somebody, some information about a moment with a winemaker. Or, if you're meeting with them a week later, it may have already kind of fallen to the wayside in the grand scheme of stories that are relevant in the moment. But with social media now, if you're at one of the wine tastings, you can snap a picture of a cool wine that you had, a winemaker that you met, somebody another media person that you meet, anything really, a wine that looks cool labels, a story that you heard, a wine in a restaurant that's really new, and you can get that out there right away, and it spreads the word, and people can kind of see what's going in the moment, which is, feeding into our. We need things fast and quick and furious, and we have no attention spans.
Exactly.
But, on the plus side, there's so much out there. I can see what other people are doing in wine. They can see what I'm doing in wine or in life.
Used correctly, I think there's definitely pros and cons to it. But I think it definitely helps, and I'm more on the pro side of things.
Yeah, well, it's happening this way anyways. So, be aware of the downfalls and try and, make sure it's not taking over your life. There's a bit of a, phone problem, I'd say, with people.
Yeah.
But at the same time, use it at the right times and the right capacity.
It's a great tool, basically.
It is a great tool.
Yeah. How's your freelance work been going? Who do you contribute to?
I'm just kind of getting that part started. There have been a couple different magazines I've written for around the city. Kelsey had me doing some stuff for West Ender a little bit here and there. And I don't know, it's just, I do some stuff for Shambar as well. Carrie has me writing some articles for the company there. A couple different there's a lot of people looking to just kind of reword things when it comes to advertising. It doesn't have to be related to wine. I just have a way of working with words, copy editing, things like that. So I'm trying to kind of use that tool and move a little bit more forward in it, knowing it's something that I have a real strength in, and I really enjoy doing, and I was always really sort of scared to pursue writing before. Vita's been giving me a lot of confidence to move forward with it, just because it seemed more like, not a hobby, but I think because I do it naturally, I assume other people do it naturally, so I don't necessarily think it's a marketable thing, and then you realize that a lot of people are not that fluent with their words. They can't necessarily create something catchy, or follow a certain tone, or keep things on the, keep things fluid on a concept or a theme, and you realize that it is quite a unique thing to have. So I'm trying to jump into that a little more.
So you're very busy as of late. So when did you become a board member on the BC Hospitality Foundation?
That is a very, very, very new thing that is just kind of starting to roll out. I was approached by two very inspiring women in the industry, Dana Lee Harris and Christine Coletta, about joining the BC Hospitality Foundation on kind of a board capacity, and they just wanted another media person in there, and honestly it was quite an honor to even be considered, and I had been wanting to get more involved in some volunteer work in the city, just give back a little bit more, and it's actually really nice that so BC Hospitality Foundation supports people in the restaurant industry, food and hospitality industry, who are dealing with financial crisis in some capacity. Whether you're sick, there's not necessarily a lot of kind of fallback for us if things go wrong in our lives. And we have a lot of people who've invested most of their lives into this. Like, I've been doing it for almost 21 years now. And so to be able to give back, I've been through those tough moments where, you know, you get hurt, you have family issues, you know, run into money can fuck us up in a lot of ways.
Exactly.
So it's really nice to be able to give back, help that. We do fundraisers, as well as handing out some scholarships for anybody in those industries. So we do wine scholarships, food, culinary scholarships, things along those lines, which is really interesting.
That's very interesting. Like,
Yeah.
we have to get the links to that maybe. Like,
Yes, absolutely, yeah. And the fundraising will start. There's a couple different events coming up.
All right.
Yeah, really exciting though. I'm very, very, very happy to be involved with that. So there's an event coming up called Dish and Dazzle, and they do kind of essentially everything related to, like, a lot of culinary people come in around the city and make dishes, different restaurants and chefs, and we normally have a featured wine, and this year it's Argentina. And they'll be doing a bunch of different Argentinian wines with different food. There'll be music, there'll be an auction, and that's on May 10th. And I think that'll be sort of the first big thing I'll kind of be around for, be on the board for when this is starting to happen. So yeah.
Exactly. Where is that again?
It's at VCC on May 10th.
Okay.
So.
What is the Top Drop Wine Festival? Can you explain that to us?
Top Drop. Okay, another thing. I was asked to do social media for Top Drop last year, and so Jeff Curry and Curtis Colt, two other big wine guys in the city, amazing, amazing dudes who started this thing 4 years ago. This will be the 5th year. It's called Top Drop. It's not just wine. There's also beer, and they do beer, ciders, food, anything. It's not always just local, but it's meant to be sort of a public and trade event that showcases crafted kind of food things that are all terroir driven, small production, family run, really like made with a lot of intention. And it's honestly one of the coolest little festivals that I think Vancouver hosts. It's awesome. And so very happy to be a part of that. They just released the participants for this year, and that's coming up in May as well. We've got a Calgary event happening too, first time.
Wow.
Yeah, so that's going to start unraveling really quick too. Tickets just went on sale last week, so.
You have to invite us. Putting that out there. Do you have any advice for inspiring sommeliers or even writers, for that matter?
I'd say it's not even just for aspiring writers or sommeliers. Find what you really like to do and follow that. I've done a lot of different things in my past, and I'll do things, I'll do them well for a couple of years, and then I'll find they're not fulfilling me the way that I want them to, and then I just kind of keep jumping around. I've done sales, I've done teaching, I've done marketing, and I always end up coming back to restaurants, funny enough. I've always liked this industry, the people and the change, and the kind of go-go-go-ness of it. I thrive in that, even though I'm a little tired lately.
Happens.
But find the thing that you really like to do, and honestly, just roll forward with it. Don't waste time. Just have the confidence. Know if you put it out there, the universe will kind of feed it back if you're doing it for the right reasons. So, for writers, just keep writing. I mean, find a niche as well. Don't just write for the sake of writing. Figure out what you're good at. Figure out what you want to do. Pursue that. And then for wine, I mean, you kind of got to jump in. It can be a little. You kind of got to jump off the diving board and just get wet with it. So, and you may like it in a really neurotic way, which you can thrive in that, or you might like it just sort of you get to learn a little bit more about wine, host some events with your friends, or just when you're drinking it, you just understand a little bit more about where it comes from and who's making it, and be aware of that. It's not always about buying expensive wines. It can just be about knowing your farmers, where the wine's made and how it's made, and why it's important to know that.
So what are some ways that a writer can get their work out there and get hired?
I mean, again, there's so many different ways that you can write. So, I'm learning my own path just right now. I've been quite fortunate that things have sort of rolled out for me in a way just by pursuing something that I liked, but it depends. I mean, if you are looking to do, you can start a blog, you can just keep your Instagram interesting, try and get yourself noticed. If you're looking to do magazine work or editing work, if you actually want to work for a company within that without doing freelance, there's always positions opening up, for editing, and you just sort of have to kind of just got to throw yourself into it. You just have to sort of do things, get noticed, know people, put yourself out there.
Be social, I guess.
Yeah. There's lots of courses too, you know, but everybody kind of comes at it from a different angle, and there's so it's almost hard. Are you going to write a book? Do you want to do copy editing? Do you want to work for a newspaper? Are you looking to do media? Are you looking to write content? Are you, you know, if you have a really kind of cool niche or background in like finance, you know, you can find tons of work in that if you have the language to write those sorts of things. Do you speak another language? Are you a translator? That opens up the world for freelance work if you can do that sort of stuff. So.
Is there a book in your future?
Yes.
Yeah?
Yeah.
Do you know what it's going to be about? It's going to be about your life or work or just a certain topic?
I have two different kind of concepts in my head that I'm tossing back and forth. So poetry is one, whether it'll be a book or whether it's just my musings. And then potential for fiction, not fiction, about my life or not my life.
Keep us posted.
Or a girl who's maybe like me and has things out there that are maybe true or not true. We don't know yet.
Names changed and stuff, right?
Yeah. Everything stays the same. I'll just change the name. Mom, most of it's not true, I promise.
What would you say is some of your favorite wines and some of your favorite authors?
Ooh, okay. Favorite author, Tom Robbins, for sure. Half Asleep in Frog Pajamas, Another Roadside Attraction, what is it? Still Life with Woodpeckers, my favorite book by him. And then favorite book would be Master and Margarita by Mikhail Bulgakov, kind of Russian literature. Devil Visits Moscow, bunch of kind of unruly characters. It's amazing. Long story to get into it, but it involves a naked girl on a broomstick as a witch too, which is also things I like. Wine, I don't do favorites for wine. I like to just keep trying wines. There's too much out there. I find I'm quite moody with what I like to drink, so kind of like getting dressed depends on what mood I'm in.
Do you have a favorite region, country?
No, I just keep bringing them on. Nice. I just want to try everything, and I mean it depends. Like right now, I drink something with you. If it's tonight, I'll be drinking something else. It's not going to be the same thing.
Yeah.
You know, is it hot? Are we on a beach? Are we out for a romantic dinner? Are we, you know, are we celebrating? Are we just chilling in front of like a movie? All of this, you know, there's a time and a place for everything. Am I with my parents? Am I with, you know, everything changes. So.
The rules have kind of changed in the wine world as well. Like you don't have to have this with a certain meal or this with that. Is it kind of?
There's just a lot of different approaches. I mean, there's definitely food pairing can blow your mind. There's food that doesn't fight with wine, so you can just like have food, have wine, and life goes on. You can have wine and food that are so horrific together that it will ruin everything, and you'll have wasted all of your money. And then you'll have a jackpot day and have a pairing that just like melts your mind, and you start realizing why food and wine can go together so well. And really it's just about your intention. Are you looking to pair, or are you just kind of looking to socialize and dine and eat? And you know, the thing with food pairing, there's some things that can be really unusual, like the joie, where you think pink rosé goes really well with little Cornichon pickles. Like really, really, really well. If you go up to...
So rosé's really gotten big in the last few years, for
yeah,
sure.
Absolutely. There is a Spanish place called Tempranillo around the corner, and all of those Spanish wines with Spanish cuisine, you start realizing why these wines are made in these areas to go with this food. And you know, you start having some of this fish with these really crisp kind of saline white wines, and you're just like, whoa, this is not, you know, they come from a history of wine that has existed for much longer than our history here in BC. So we don't necessarily have wines that go with our food so naturally. We're still looking to kind of figure out where we fit, how we make wines. We make amazing wines, and we have a lot of wine that goes well with our food, but they didn't necessarily start from the same place and grow together over 100 years. And so when you start learning place in food and wine, it's really neat to see how they go together. And then there's just a lot of different cool wines being made as well. So there's a new winemaker at Spearhead Winery out in the Okanagan, and his name is Grant Stanley. And I went to a tasting yesterday at Bricks and Mortar, and he has a new white Pinot Noir, which is not something most people are familiar with. And if you take a red grape, and normally a lot of people would make red wine with it, and you just make it without any skin contact, and it will still create, the juice inside the grape is still white, and he makes a white Pinot, and it is amazing. It's just really cool too to have somebody doing something new and interesting. And so keep your eyes peeled for that. And then, yeah, I went for dinner yesterday at Wagon Rouge. And who's there right now? It is Jesse Walters, who was at Burdock & Co. before and did the natural wine list there, has moved on to this place. And the wines are all, like, it was order day yesterday and just saw some of the new wines being pulled out of the boxes. And he's like, this one isn't even on the list yet. He's got a bunch of different cool Beaujolais, and it is going to be a very, very good rollout with him there. I'm very happy to see him there. So.
Someone coming to Vancouver the first time and trying wine, or how would you describe the wine scene here in Vancouver?
Honestly, it's an intense scene, but the people are really, really approachable. I mean, there's places that wine it's not even meant to be approachable, and that's fine. Let wine be, fancy where it needs to be fancy, and let it not be where it doesn't need to be. There's tons of events, lots of people, and really cool wines. They really support the BC industry. So lots of restaurants have lots of really cool BC wines, which I really, really like. And just find a place that, like, there's wine awards that go around, and find places that have the good wine awards and pull out the sommelier and just have a chat. They love to talk. They don't, it's not about trying to wow you. It's just, if you want to listen about wine, they will just yab your ear off with
they love to educate.
Things. Yeah. They love people who are just interested. It's not about, I just want this cab. It's, they want to know, you want to kind of take them on an adventure. You want them to be, be curious about who's making the wine. Why was it made like this? There's tons of really cool things going on. So yeah, lots in Vancouver. You just have to, again, Vancouver can be funny, so you just have to put yourself out there. Don't let yourself get scared. Be confident, go out there, and people will receive you very well. So
that's great. So when you're not doing all these many things, exciting things, what are you doing? Like you just chill on your days off? What can we find you?
I have been, my boyfriend has a cabin up on Mount Kane Island it's a couple hours past Campbell River on Vancouver Island. So we've been getting up there for some good skiing and snowboarding on the weekends. It's totally analog, very remote, no cell reception, no running water, no electricity, it's just candlelight, and we boil our own water from the water stanchion, and everybody up there are from these like funny little utopian communities over on the island, and they remind me of when I lived in Halifax, like just maritimer hospitality. You're on the T-bar up the mountain, and the person next to you learn everything about their life in the 3 minutes it takes you to get up there, right? Whereas out here, it's like you get in an elevator and everyone is just like stone cold silent, and if you don't break that silence right away, it's too uncomfortable to talk to people. So that's been amazing. Especially with, Vancouver being pretty buzzy, it's nice to sort of get away from it all. Silence, solitude, it's really important to have that balance. So
inside the city, what would you say is your favorite pastime, Vancouver?
Inside the city, just get out. I live in the West End. I got the beach there. You've got restaurants all over the place. There's parks. There's so much to see and do. And just get out. Just be outside, walking around. That's all you need in Vancouver on top of all of the different things you can do. So, all right, what's your story, Vancouver? Our city, our stories.
Thanks you two for watching. All Laura's links will be in the description below. Find our links down below as well. Please like, share, and subscribe, and ding that bell. All right, thank you.